I'm going to present today my first information about the 10 abodes. The 10 abodes, where the mind can, where we can put the mind that will help us enter onto the path to become a bodhisattva, a person who can be a benefit to all beings in the world. So before we put the mind into no abiding at all, we first need to be able to know how to place the mind in the correct spot. So there are these 10 places we put the mind. So this teaching comes from the Avantamsaka Sutra. Also, that is the Sanskrit version of a collection of different sutras that were eventually put together and were then translated around 480 CE into Chinese, Huayanjing. That translation was not complete and had some difficulties, and then it was retranslated in 699 CE. So we're in the Tang Dynasty now. This Avantamsaka Sutra is translated as flower ornament or flower adornment. And so it's good to understand a little bit about what that means. So just as a flower is very beautiful, and when we look at it carefully, we see all of the beauty of the flower, we see how it is adorned, then the Bodhisattva is able to see the realms of the world in that way, so that all of the realms of the world are adorned in that way. Most people, when they look at the world, they see, once in a while, they see a beautiful sunset, and they say, oh, how beautiful or awesome that is. But this kind of beauty transcends that. It's not just a physical beauty, but it's an awareness of a path that leads to the great awakening. In ancient times, there was another very important sutra we call Sarangama Sutra, and there was a lay commentator who spent many, many years developing a commentary. And this commentary, he very long and detailed and profound, and he wanted to get authorization to be able to share this with the world. So he went to the great expert of the Sarangama Sutra, to a monk. He found him in his kitchen, and he was making a big pot of stew, stirring the stew. And he went to him and he said, oh, great master, if you would kindly read my manuscript. This is my one version of my manuscript. In those days, they didn't have Google. They didn't have Microsoft Word. He just had his own handwritten characters, the manuscript. So could you please look at this and tell me if you would give authorization and an endorsement for my manuscript? And the monk said, of course, I'll be happy, but first I need to ask you 3 questions. If you can ask those 3 questions, then I will give you my endorsement. If you can't answer the 3 questions, then I will take your manuscript and I will put it in the stew. Well, he asked him the 3 questions. He couldn't answer them. We are fortunate we don't have to eat that stew. But that's the story. Then, many years later, there was a master who was a great master of the Avantamsaka Sutra of Huayanjing, and there was a lay person who had written a very good commentary. And his commentary was very profound, but no one read it, even though it was well considered by the master until 400 years later. So it is my great hope that whatever it is that I'm working on in 250 years will find some value. We'll see. Okay, so we'll start with the Huayan Jing, the Huayan Buddhism and the Ten Abodes. Huayan Buddhism, very good school of Buddhism, very interconnected with Tiantan and also with Chan Buddhism. And these schools were very closely interlinked. Even some of the masters were the same. And Huayan's great contribution is that it perceives the world as everything being interconnected. We're all interconnected with each other. There's no need to have obstruction. We're all intertwined, interconnected. So that's one of the big principles of Huayan Buddhism. So the next slide, we have the flower ornamental, flower adornment sutra, and these are some of the translations into English of the actual sutra itself by Thomas Cleary. He wrote a very thick, almost complete, not, there were parts that he left out. And then Master Xinghua of the City of 10,000 Buddhas, all his is online, but there are maybe only 2/3 of the chapters are translated, but he also has a commentary that goes along with his translation by BTTS. So that's also accessible to us. But the most complete and detailed translation into English was recently done in 2022 by Venerable Dhamma. And this is an incredible 3-volume set that goes through the entire teachings. So we can see that the 52 stages of the Bodhisattva in the next slide, we can see that there are 52 stages altogether. The first 10 stages of trust or 10 stages of faith I've talked about before, but they're not in this particular text. They're found in some other texts. And so we're not going to work on that at this moment. Those are found in the Sutra of the Diadem of the Primary Activities of the Bodhisattva and the Sutra for Human Kings and some in the Brahmanat Sutra, first fascicle. So we won't be looking at that today, but we're looking at the Flower Ornament Sutra and the 10 Abodes. That's the next set, and then the 10 practices and the 10 dedications of merit and the 10 grounds. These are found in the different chapters. We're going to be looking at chapter 15. There are 39 chapters altogether. So virtual enlightenment and marvelous enlightenment are discussed in a little bit in the Huayan Jing, but also in some other teachings. But we won't be talking about that today. We will be looking at the 10 Abodes. So what are the 10 Abodes? In the next slide, we can see in chapter 15, we have the abode of the first arousal of the aspiration, the abode of nurturing, the abode of repeated practice, producing virtues, skillful means, correct mind, no backsliding, true child, Dharma prince, and lustration. Lustration is like a graduation. And so here are the first 5 abodes that also included the Chinese as well, for those people who would like the Chinese. In the Huayan Jing, or the Bantam Sanka Sutra, there are 7 places that that the talks are given in 9 different assemblies, and there's a format for this that we can go into a later date. But the format of this is that we look at the Avantam Sanka Sutra, the Huayan Jing, chapter 15, has 21 pages. And the chapter 21 on the 10 practices has 41 pages. Chapter 25 on the 10 dedications of merit has 241 pages. And then chapter 26 on the 10 grounds, 185 pages. So 488 pages in English for these 4 chapters on the 40 Bodhisattva stages. But my commentary is only focusing on a small portion, just the portion that where the instruction is given as to how to practice. So in chapter 15 of the 21 pages, there are 635 lines of Chinese text that are devoted, and the commentary focuses on a practice on approximately 80 lines of the Chinese text. Actually, I think that I'm a little bit off here. I think it's 6,000 lines. I have to double check this. But anyway, so again, I'm only looking at a small portion. I think 1.2% instead of 12%. I have to double check. So the format that I'm looking at is on 2 of the main teachings for each of the abodes that have 10 qualities and 10 subjects to be studied. So, for example, in the first abode, the first arousal of the aspiration, although the stage of arousing the Bodhisattva aspiration is presented in the 10 stages of trust or faith, this stage is repeated here in the Avantamsaka Sutra, insofar as the stages of trust are not presented in this text. Once the Bodhisattva has aroused the aspiration to be a benefit to all beings, this is called bodhicitta, and has placed trust in the 10 paramita. We've talked about the paramita here, of generosity, morality, patience, diligence, concentration, wisdom, skillful, and then the additional ones of skillful means, vows, special powers, and knowledges. The next step is to prepare to be trained in how to place the mind in the correct 10 abodes. So the 10 qualities for arousing aspiration, I'm not going to go into these in detail. I'm just, you can read my book if it doesn't end up in a stew. So, so these are the first 5, knowing what is and what is not perceived. These have very deep meanings, and I hope to be able to elucidate some of that so that it inspires us to go deeper and understand how the mind processes information. And how things are perceived goes back to the beginning of my commentary related to the awakening of my Mahayana faith, where the coarse and the subtle defilements are discussed. So this is, and then, so I'm not going to go through all of this. I'm just going to present that this exists at this point. And then there are 10 subjects to arouse the aspiration that a person will study. And the studying here is not just intellectual study, but it's the application, putting it into practice, making offerings to the Buddha. We just don't study that, we actually practice it, abiding happily in this life, and even at the moment of death, guiding the world to eradicate unwholesome karma. These are things that the Bodhisattva learns. These are important things to be able to do. And even though they may not be able to do them completely because they're just beginning in the abodes, this is something that the person arouses in their mind. This is what I want to be able to do. I want to be able to help people with their karma. I want to be able to teach the supreme and subtle Dharma. I want to be able to praise the unsurpassed Dharma. These are things that I'm arousing in my mind. So I'm not going to go through all of these in detail. But I do want to go through an overview of the 10 abodes so that we have a better understanding. So the Ten Abodes describe the Bodhisattva's deepening stability on the path, beginning with the first arousal of aspiration and culminating in consecration. That's the graduation as a Dharma heir, person who now is in the lineage of the Buddha. Each stage nurtures, strengthens, and stabilizes the Bodhisattva's practice, preparing them for the next step to be cultivated in the 10 practices. That's the next set. The 10 practices, 10 dedications of merit, and the 10 bhumi grounds. So the abode of the first arousal of the aspiration to be a benefit at the very beginning is the abode of the first arousal of aspiration, where the Bodhisattva's heart opens toward supreme enlightenment. This is the first stirring of bodhicitta, resolve not only to awaken oneself, but to liberate all beings. It's compared to a seed falling into the fertile soil. Although the seed is small, it carries immeasurable potential. From this aspiration springs a path as vast as the Dharma realm itself, all the different realms. So I had been playing with with Lotus, my AI chat GPT assistant. This is a little dangerous. And I actually had an idea for a cartoon, and just to share with my family. And I asked, I had never done this before, but I asked ChatGPT to make a cartoon, and she did a fantastic job. I mean, it was unbelievable. In 2 minutes, she created this cartoon. So then I began to, as I'm looking at this and I'm trying to finish up my volume on the 10 abodes, I think, okay, maybe ChatGPT, if I give her the right information, she can make a little drawing of the first abode. So this was her effort. Yes, not so bad. She's sprinkling her seeds, or his seeds, doesn't matter, male or female. This is very much for me, after I finished doing all 10 of them, I thought, oh, this is a little bit like the map of the 10 buffaloes. I don't know, maybe. So the second abode of nurturing. Once the seed is planted, it must be cared for. Here the Bodhisattva tends to the conditions that allow their aspirations to grow strong and straight. Through discipline, meditation, compassion, and moral wisdom, bodhisattvas stabilize their mind, protect it from distractions, have loving kindness towards all, and prepare the ground for further development. Through steady nourishment of faith and virtue, they are assured that the initial resolve will not wither. And so I asked it to make a drawing of the Bodhisattva, young Bodhisattva, nurturing the plants. The third abode of repeated practice. With the abode's foundation well started, the Bodhisattva is ready to take the next steps. What was once occasional becomes consistent. Virtuous action, vows, and contemplations are repeated until they form an unbroken current, like waves rolling ceaselessly toward the shore. This repetition shapes the Bodhisattva's character, transforming good intentions into unshakable habits of body, speech, and mind. Now we have the Bodhisattva digging the foundation of his abode. The fourth abode of producing virtues. The Bodhisattva's garden of wholesome seeds begins to bear visible fruit. Surrounding the abode, compassion, patience, generosity, and wisdom flourish, just as well-cultivated field begins to yield its harvest. In the same way, the Bodhisattva now generates qualities that actively benefit others. Following the 10 primary Bodhisattva precepts, provides strong support to the abode's foundation, walls, and wall footings. These precepts become a source of greater virtue, like a lamp that lights others' lamps without diminishing itself. So here we have the young Bodhisattva setting the first footings of his abode. He should have some plants in the background. So, the fifth abode of skillful means. Again, skillful means. Having produced virtues, the Bodhisattva must learn to apply them with discernment and skillful means. Here, the Bodhisattvas cultivate the ability to adapt the Dharma to the capacities and conditions of different beings. This is very important part of having an altruistic view, being able to see the good qualities in other people and being able to support them, each according to their capacities. Sometimes gentle, sometimes firm, sometimes teaching through words, sometimes through silence. All the while, the activities become appropriately flexible, adaptive, and effective, guided always by wisdom and compassion in equal measure. Just as a skillful carpenter makes the abode walls straight and square, the Bodhisattva is skilled at helping all beings find a safe and secure dwelling refuge. Here, the walls are straight and square. The sixth abode of correct mind. The result of the cultivation of virtue combined with skillful means is the abode of the correct mind, where the Bodhisattva abides in uprightness and clarity. Their thoughts are no longer swayed by self-interest, delusion, or coarse defilements. Instead, the mind and practice align with reality as it is. Both self and phenomenon are realized as empty of inherent existence. All things are interconnected. This correct mind provides the abode with a sturdy and stable framework. From this vantage point, the Bodhisattva can see a straight path leading directly toward awakening. But here, the structure is being built. A little aside here that the master at this time, the lineage master of the Huayan school, Fazang, he wrote a very important commentary, and in the commentary he has a metaphor about the interconnectedness of all the parts of a house and the rafters of a roof, and that if you take the rafters off, the house will just fall into its different pieces. So they have to be interconnected with each other. Very important metaphor during that time. The seventh abode of no backsliding. Now this, when I've read other commentaries on this, they weren't exactly correct, so I needed to correct them a little bit. Once the abode's framing is upright and its roof, ridgepole, rafters, and roof tiles are in place, the structure is less likely to falter. In the same way, the Bodhisattva's mind is more firmly established in the Buddha Dharma. Here, their progress on the Mahayana path becomes less subject to being reversed. However, regression is still possible until the seventh Bhumi ground. So that's many stages further, 27 stages further along the way maybe a little bit more than that. So the Bodhisattva still can fall back at this point, but the awareness of non-regression and how important that is, and the firmness of their resolve becomes strengthened at this point. However, the Bodhisattva must still guard against wind and storms. Strong fears, hardships, and sense-based temptations can damage their mind dwelling and cause them to turn back. Yet the Bodhisattva's resolve is deep and resilient. This course can be reset to return to the path. Just as the great river flows into the ocean, even when obstacles arise, the direction is unalterable. So even if he falls off, he can correct and come back. So here's the seventh abode of the no backsliding. Now the abode is made. I kept trying to get ChatGPT to make the abode bigger or the bodhisattva smaller. I gave up after several things. I may have to give this. My secretary is an excellent artist, so I may just give this to her and say, "Here, please help." You may not rely on ChatGPT for the final version, we don't know. The eighth abode of the true child. At this stage, the Bodhisattva is likened to a pure and undefiled child. The child's conduct is straightforward and unsullied by worldly corruption. Children approach the Dharma with freshness and sincerity, their innocence symbolizing freedom from attachment and guile. In the same way, the Bodhisattva's heart is simple, direct, and full of pure intention. The Bodhisattva has childlike quality mixed with a subtle wisdom. This reflects being free from the attachment of their capacity to approach all things with oneness. The abode's roof is shingled and the walls are in place. The Bodhisattva is full of joy and wonder. Final abode there. This gives new meaning to a tiny house. The ninth abode of the Dharma Prince. So the Bodhisattva matures into the Dharma Prince, an heir to the lineage of the Dharma King. The Dharma King is the Buddha, or the many Buddhas that have been teaching. The Bodhisattvas carry forward the Buddha's work of teaching and protecting beings. Though not yet fully awakened, their role is of being noble disciples. This allows them to uphold the Dharma as its stewards, preparing to take the seat of Buddhahood. Their abode is furnished with the adornments of the Dharma realm and yet unattached. They prepare to transfer their abode to the raft going across to the other shore of liberation. Here the Bodhisattva is preparing the raft. Should be a bigger raft so everybody can get on. Finally, the 10th abode of lustration. At the stage of consecration or anointment, the Bodhisattva is symbolically crowned, like a prince receiving a ritual pouring of water upon his head. And this lustration signifies the readiness to act as a teacher in the world. Their wisdom and compassion now flows freely, illuminating and sustaining the world's systems, teaching vast assemblies and purifying the Dharma realm itself. So here's the picture of the abode of lustration. Oh, maybe did it get into the picture? Oh, so in this picture, the Bodhisattva is standing there, and there are other teachers, monks, and they're handing him robes. That's symbolic at this point. Yes. So the summary of the 10 abodes. Together, these 10 abodes form a gradual unfolding from the first aspiration to the graduation maturity. During this journey, the Bodhisattva takes root, grows, flowers into the very air of the Buddha's lineage. So this is my talk on the 10 abodes, making it simple, hopefully, and with the pictures, maybe a little bit more applicable. People can kind of picture these things in their mind rather than having to hold on to hundreds of words. So I hope that this is inspiration for all of us to practice and be a benefit to all beings. May all beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all beings never be separated from the altruistic joy which is free from suffering. And may all beings dwell in the great equanimity which is free from attachment, aversion, and ignorance. Thank you for your kind attention.